What if I told you that you know nothing about ancient Egypt? What do you think really helped Egyptian soldiers survive? The answers are in this video, and they will definitely shock you. When we think of an Egyptian soldier, our mind pictures a warrior with a bronze halberd and a large shield. We think of battles, chariots, and sieges of ancient cities. But the truth is that this soldier's main enemy was not another warrior. His real adversaries were the scorching sun, the waterless desert, hunger, and the wear and tear of his equipment. The strength of the Pharaoh's army lay not only in its weapons, but also in the complex, well-oiled system that supported the lives of thousands of people far from the fertile Nile Valley. This system was built on logistics, discipline, engineering, and a deep understanding of the harsh realities of their world. Watch this video to the end to learn how a simple scribe with papyrus was more important than a general, and why an ordinary bow was valued as highly as gold. What if I told you that the main weapon of an Egyptian warrior was invisible and weighed almost nothing? I'm not talking about clever tactics, but about what was hidden under his linen tunic. It was a complex system of amulets and personal talismans that provided psychological protection no less important than physical protection. Soldiers believed that these small objects warded off invisible threats.
It will keep us safe tonight, brother.
The most common amulet was the Eye of Horus, or Eye of Horus. This symbol represented healing, integrity, and divine protection. Warriors wore it around their necks or sewed it into their clothes, sincerely believing that it would protect them from misfortune and help keep their bodies intact. It was a kind of spiritual insurance in a world full of dangers. No less popular was the symbol Ankh, the famous hieroglyph meaning life. For a soldier whose profession was associated with constant risk, this amulet served as a powerful reminder of the life force. He believed that the gods saw this sign and granted him good luck and longevity. Often, the Ankh was part of a more complex necklace, along with other protective symbols. Another important talisman was the Djed pillar, symbolizing the spine of the god Osiris. This sign was associated with stability, strength, and endurance. Soldiers who wore the Djed hoped to acquire these qualities in order to endure long marches and the hardships of military campaigns. Many warriors also carried figurines of the god Bez. This dwarf god with a menacing grimace was considered a protector against evil spirits and bad omens. His image was especially popular among soldiers, as Bez, despite his appearance, was considered a kind patron and guardian. His image could be found on knife handles or personal belongings. The scarab, symbol of the god Khepri, was also a frequent companion of warriors. This beetle pushing its ball was associated with rebirth, creation, and the morning sun. For soldiers, it was a symbol of hope that each day would begin anew. They believed that, like the sun, they would be reborn after a dark and restless night on the march. How important do you think faith was for soldiers in the ancient world? Share your opinion in the comments. Are you ready to learn the truth about what was really in a soldier's backpack and kept him going? The ancient Egyptian army was one of the first in history to understand the importance of centralized supply. Each soldier received a daily ration of bread, which was carefully measured out. Mobile bakeries accompanied the army on its marches. Special units carried hand mills for grinding grain and collapsible ovens. Bread making was a constant, daily task that provided the army with fresh provisions. This bread was hard and had a long shelf life, making it an ideal camping food. It could be eaten dry or soaked in water or beer. Dates or honey were often added to the dough to increase the calorie content and improve the taste. It was the real energy base of a soldier's life.
Keep grinding. We need enough for the cohort.
The second pillar of the diet was beer, or henket. It is important to understand that Egyptian beer was very different from modern beer. It was thick, opaque, and more like a nutritious porridge or liquid bread. Beer was not so much a drink for relaxation as an important food product. It provided soldiers not only with calories, but also with necessary fluids. The fermentation process also made it safer to drink than water from questionable sources.
By the Pharaohs' will, we march northeast.
What would your diet be like if you were in such an army? But food and beer are useless if they don't reach the soldier. In the next chapter, we will reveal the secret that held the Pharaoh's entire army together. And it is not rope, but papyrus.
Attention, soldiers. Ready your shields. We march.
What I am about to show you is hidden behind the scenes of great battles. When we talk about the army, we imagine warriors, but we forget about those who made their work possible. The survival of the Egyptian army depended not on muscle power, but on the accuracy of calculations. The key figure in this process was the military scribe, armed not with a sword, but with a palette of paints and a scroll of papyrus. Every unit, starting with a small detachment, had its own scribe. These people were the brain center of the army. They kept strict records of everything, from the number of soldiers in the ranks to the last pair of sandals in the warehouse. Without their work, the army would have descended into chaos and starvation within a few days. The scribe's main task was to manage food supplies. They knew exactly how much bread and beer each unit needed per day. They checked the personnel lists against the actual number of people present and distributed rations. It was the scribe who ensured that soldiers on distant posts received their legal food allowance. Logistics was their second task. The scribe drew up requests for supplies from Egypt. He calculated how much grain and dried fish would be needed for a month's campaign and sent these reports to the capital. His calculations determined how far the army could move away from the Nile and how long it could hold out in enemy territory. They also kept track of equipment. Every shield, every spear, every linen kilt was recorded in the register. When equipment wore out or broke, the soldier turned to the officer, and the officer turned to the scribe. The scribe issued new equipment from the warehouse and made a corresponding note in his scroll. If you are interested in how other aspects of life in ancient times were organized, be sure to check out other videos on our channel dedicated to history.
Finest linen in all of Thebes, fresh from the loom.
Are you ready for the shocking truth about the main skill of an Egyptian soldier? It was not archery or spearmanship. It was the ability to walk. The Pharaoh's army was predominantly on foot, and its ability to quickly cover vast distances across the desert was the key to military success. Survival on such a march depended on the right equipment. The basis of the soldier's uniform was a simple linen kilt. This choice was dictated by the harsh climate. The simplicity of the kilt was also an advantage. It did not restrict movement, allowing soldiers to walk, run, or climb rocks freely. It was easy to care for. Linen fabric could be quickly washed in any river or oasis and dried in the sun. Soldiers used headgear to protect themselves from the scorching sun. Most often, it was a simple linen scarf, similar to those worn by peasants. It protected the head from overheating and covered the neck from sunburn. Officers could wear more elaborate wigs, but on the march, everyone preferred practicality. The most important piece of equipment for marching was sandals. Egyptian sandals were a work of engineering. They were made of woven papyrus, fibers, or leather. The design of the sandals was thought out to the smallest detail. Straps securely fixed the shoes to the foot, preventing them from slipping off. How much do you think modern military equipment surpasses ancient Egyptian equipment in desert conditions? In the next chapter, we will talk about how the Egyptians solved the main problem of the desert.
We must secure the wells of this oasis before the seventh sun. I will mark it in...
Far from the banks of the Nile, the only thing that mattered was water. The success of any military campaign in Sinai, Libya, or Nubia depended on one simple factor: whether the army could provide itself with drinking water. To this end, the Egyptians developed a whole strategy, honed over centuries. The main method of transporting water was specially treated leather bags or water skins. They were made from hides that had been carefully tanned and tarred to prevent leakage. These bags could hold a significant amount of water and were convenient for transporting on donkeys or on the shoulders. Each soldier carried his own personal supply of water. This was usually a ceramic flask or a small leather bag. This supply was sacred and was only used on orders or in extreme necessity. Most of the water was transported in a convoy. Caravans of donkeys loaded with water skins traveled alongside the army. These animals were valued for their incredible endurance and ability to navigate difficult terrain. Special detachments were assigned to guard the convoy and ensure the safety of the precious cargo. The routes of military campaigns were always planned with water sources in mind. Egyptian scouts and guides from local tribes knew in advance the location of all wells and oases along the way. The army moved from one source to another, replenishing its supplies at each stop. Along key military roads, such as the Way of Horus in Sinai, the Egyptians built a whole network of permanent forts. These forts served not only as garrisons, but also as supply stations. Each fort had a deep well or cistern for collecting rainwater. When the army arrived at such a fort, it could rest and replenish all its water supplies before the next push through the desert. This system of forts was the backbone of the Egyptian military machine in the desert. Thus, the entire logistics of the Egyptian army in the desert were built around water. Accounting, transportation, security, and searching for sources were the main tasks of the command. Their successful completion determined whether the army would reach its destination or remain in the sands. Want to know the secret that allowed thousands of soldiers to sleep peacefully in hostile territory? The Egyptian army never stopped to camp in the open field. Every evening after a long day's march, the soldiers set about their second main task. The foundation of the camp was a moat. Using simple wooden hoes and baskets to carry soil, the soldiers quickly dug a deep trench around the entire perimeter of the camp. The excavated soil was used to create a rampart on the inside of the moat, which made the barrier even more formidable. Tents were pitched inside this perimeter. Soldiers' tents were simple. Such a fortified camp was not just a place to sleep. It was a temporary fortress capable of withstanding a sudden night attack. It gave the soldiers a sense of security. How difficult do you think it was to do such hard work after a whole day of marching? In the next chapter, we will see that construction was not just a necessity on the march.
We have arrived at the quarry.
One of the army's main tasks was to participate in expeditions to quarries. Egypt needed huge amounts of stone for temples and tombs, and these quarries were often located in remote and dangerous areas of the desert. Soldiers guarded the workers, but often took up tools themselves. They built roads to these quarries, clearing the way of boulders. They built temporary settlements for workers and engineers. Using copper chisels, wooden mallets, and levers, soldiers helped break out huge blocks of granite or sandstone. This hard work required tremendous physical strength and endurance. These same skills were also used for military purposes. When besieging enemy cities, Egyptian soldiers did not stand under the walls waiting. They immediately began engineering work. They built siege ramps, giant ramps made of earth and wood that allowed battering rams and assault ladders to be brought right up to the top of the wall. The tools used by soldier builders were simple but effective. These included hoes with wooden handles and copper tips, woven baskets for carrying earth, and heavy wooden levers. In addition to their weapons, each soldier could also have his own work tools. The army was also involved in the construction and repair of fortresses on the borders of Egypt. Garrisons in Nubia or Sinai were constantly completing and strengthening their walls. The soldiers themselves made mud bricks from clay and straw. Thus, the physical training of a warrior was not only aimed at combat, it was aimed at hard physical labor. The ability to work with a hoe for hours or carry stones was valued no less than the ability to wield a spear. In conditions where thousands of people live crowded together in a camp, the main threat is not enemies, but disease. The Egyptians, with their cult of cleanliness, understood this very well. The survival of the army depended on strict hygiene and basic medicine. Personal hygiene was an absolute priority. Whenever possible, soldiers had to wash daily. If the camp was set up near a river, such as the Nile or the Euphrates, the soldiers bathed in the river. The Egyptians used natron, a natural soda mined in the desert, as soap. This mineral has excellent cleansing and disinfecting properties. It was mixed with oil to form a kind of paste for washing the body. This helped wash away dirt and sweat, preventing skin problems. Clean clothes were also important. Soldiers regularly washed their linen kilts and loincloths. Linen dries quickly in the sun, which helped them stay neat and tidy. Dirty clothes in a hot climate are a direct path to irritation and chafing, which could put a soldier out of action.
Maintain discipline and honor the legion.
Every army had its own doctors, or sunu. These specialists possessed extensive knowledge for their time. They knew how to treat simple wounds and, more importantly, were involved in prevention. The Egyptians used honey to treat minor cuts and abrasions, which were inevitable on a campaign. They intuitively discovered its antiseptic properties. These simple but effective measures, hygiene, clean water, prevention, and basic medicine, saved thousands of lives. The Egyptians understood that it was easier to prevent a problem than to deal with its consequences. Their organized approach to health was one of the pillars of the army's survival. The entire army was organized according to a decimal system, which was very convenient for accounting and management. The lowest unit was a squad of 10 soldiers led by a decurion. This man was their immediate superior.
All quiet. The watch will be vigilant. Get your rest, men.
5 such squads, or 50 men, were combined into a larger unit. They were commanded by an officer who, in turn, reported to the commander of a company consisting of 250 soldiers. This clear hierarchy ensured the rapid transmission of orders from the top down. The banner, or standard, was not just a symbol, it was a tactical tool for survival on the battlefield. In the chaos of battle, when dust and screams drowned out everything else, soldiers used their standard for orientation. It was a rallying point and indicated the direction of movement. Losing the banner was tantamount to the destruction of the unit. Standard bearers were experienced and respected veterans. Their task was to always keep the standard in sight. Officers and trumpeters gathered around them to relay signals. This system allowed commanders to control their units even in the most difficult conditions. Discipline was the foundation of everything. Orders were not discussed and had to be carried out immediately. This applied to everything from the command to line up to the order to conserve water. Soldiers who violated discipline were severely punished, which served as a lesson to the rest. Thus, the real secret to the Egyptian army's survival was its structure. Hierarchy, discipline, and the banner system transformed a crowd into an organized force. The main payment for service was regular rations. As we have already mentioned, soldiers did not receive money but rations, grain, beer, oil, and fabrics. These rations were sufficient to feed not only the soldier himself, but also his family back home. Soldiers knew that their loved ones would not go hungry while they were away on campaign. After successful campaigns, the pharaoh generously rewarded his warriors. Part of the spoils captured from the enemy was distributed among the soldiers. These could be valuable fabrics, metal utensils, or livestock. There were special awards for exceptional valor and courage. The most famous was the Gold of Valor. These were massive gold decorations in the form of flies or lions, which the pharaoh personally presented to distinguished soldiers. Why a fly? This seemingly strange choice had a deep meaning. In Egypt, the fly symbolized persistence and tenacity, qualities that were valued in a warrior. In addition to immediate rewards, there was also long-term motivation. After many years of impeccable service, a veteran could count on an honorable retirement. And here, the main reward awaited him, a land grant. The pharaoh allocated plots of fertile land to veterans, which they could cultivate. The entire system of survival for Egyptian soldiers, from bread and amulets to land grants, was a single entity. It was a machine in which logistics, faith, hygiene, and motivation worked together. It was this comprehensive approach that allowed the pharaoh's army to remain invincible for millennia. We can see that the survival of the Egyptian soldier was the result not only of his personal fortitude, but also of an incredibly complex and well-thought-out system. This system took everything into account, from the calorie content of bread and the cleanliness of linen tunics to psychological support. The real strength of this army was not in bronze, but in organization. It was in the scribes who kept records, the engineers who built camps, the doctors who monitored hygiene, and the commanders who maintained iron discipline. It was these unsung heroes who ensured the survival of thousands of people. What other aspects of life in ancient Egypt or other civilizations would you like to see in our future videos? Suggest your topics in the comments. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on new research into the past.